You're listening to Served Up, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful conversations. I'm your host, Bridget Albert, also known as the Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with decades of experience. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry. Hey, y'all, it's Bridget here. Now, listen, we all know that behind every great spirit is a great story. And at Potter Jane Distilling Company, that story is being written by an incredible duo, Bowie and Denny Potter. With a shared passion for crafting exceptional whiskey, they've combined their expertise and vision to create something truly unique. From their hands-on approach to distilling to their commitment to quality, Jane and Denny are pushing the boundaries on what's possible in the world of craft spirits. So sit back, relax, grab yourself your favorite cocktail, and enjoy the show. Jane and Denny, welcome to Served Up the podcast. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Bridget. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here, and it's always so fun to talk to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. And hopefully we can give you an update on what all's going on and people are somewhat entertained. We'll see. I guess we'll know after everybody listens and reviews.
Absolutely. I'm going to start off with Jane. Jane, can you tell our listeners about yourself? You know, where are you from? Where are you sitting today? And what was your journey into beverage?
So I am originally from a small town in South Central Kentucky called Monticello, Kentucky. My road into beverage, if you don't count drinking a lot of bourbon in college, which I do, I think it prepared me well. I got hired randomly at the age of 25 by Bill and Rob Samuels of Maker's Mark. I was currently in the middle of backpacking around the world. I'd been working different jobs, living in Asia primarily, had come home. My mom had moved to Louisville. As I was an adult, she had relocated from our town to Louisville, and I was sleeping on her couch, working at a hotel, saving money to move to New Zealand and be a rafting guide. Not that I knew how to do that, but, and I woke up one morning and she had taped a newspaper ad to my forehead from the Louisville Courier Journal. And it was for an event coordinator at Maker's Mark. This was early 2007. So to appease my mom, I got up, I went to the public library. I typed up a resume. I didn't own a computer. Typed up a cover letter, and my opening line was, "I don't want this job." Told them why I would not be a great event coordinator, because I wouldn't be. But I told them about I had been traveling abroad. I loved Kentucky. The dream would be to take Kentucky to the world. What better way than bourbon, and what more pinnacle company than Maker's Mark? It was honestly pitch and bullshit to appease my mom, and they called. And Rob Samuels had just come back to Makers to work for his dad, and he was going to start growing the brand internationally. And someone passed along the letter and my resume. He called, and 2 months later, I was hired as the first international employee for Maker's Mark and the first global brand ambassador, reporting directly to Rob Samuels. So dumb luck. It would never happen in a million years today. I think the industry's moved on from that. We're in the process of hiring right now, and the applications and quality of talent we see every day. I don't know they'd be hiring a 25-year-old shit show today. So that was my journey in. Very random.
Well, let me ask the same question to Denny. Denny, can you tell our listeners about yourself, even like where you grew up, what brought you into beverage, and where you are today?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Louisville, Kentucky. Pretty much most of my family originates from the west end of Louisville. But we moved around a little bit when I was younger. So I consider home Madison, Indiana. It's pretty much where I grew up. It's where I graduated high school. Then I went to Indiana University. And like Jane, I got in the industry when I was 24. And that's pretty much when I relocated back to Kentucky. So we've been back in Kentucky for the last 27 years, and 22 of that have been in Bardstown. So yeah, I'll be celebrating 27 years in the industry in January. And it all started out for me as a lab tech at Jim Beam in January of 98. And I was lucky, I had a science degree as my undergrad. Like Jane, I was just looking through the Courier Journal, to be honest, and found this advertisement. We didn't even realize that that's how we both ended up in the industry, was through a print ad in the Courier
We're
Journal.
Really aging ourselves.
This is before Indeed and LinkedIn and all the other things. I mean, I don't even think I had a cell phone. I don't even know that was a thing. Yeah. So when I started out at Beam, Booker No was still involved at Jim Beam, and then Fred was kind of starting to come into his own, and was lucky enough to be there for 5 years, was in the lab for a year, and then moved into more of the environmental side of the business. So really got involved on the wastewater and the byproduct side, and then moved to Maker's Mark 5 years after being at Beam to work with, Bill Jr. And then Dave Pickerel was our plant manager. And that's where I got a chance to, move into the distillery side and became distillery manager and eventually director of distilling operations. And then after 7 years at Makers, they moved me down to St. Croix in the Virgin Islands to run Crucian Rum. So I was the general manager of Crucian Rum for 3 years down in the VI, came back, did a year stint at the Jim Beam Frankfurt plant, and then left to go to Heaven Hill. So it was at Heaven Hill for 6 years, ended up being named master distiller and also vice president of operations. And then after 6 years, made the decision to go back to Maker's Mark just because, kind of fell in love with the place the first time. Always thought that I was going to end up back there. Mm-hmm. Just didn't think I was going to have to leave the company to come back. But then got the opportunity to come back. Rob Samuels had reached out. And so then came back as our general manager and master distiller, which is where Jane and I got to work together again. We got to work together some the first time that I was at Makers.
I trained under you.
Before she shipped over to London. And so then when I came back, Jane was running all of innovation and pretty much in charge of a lot of the maturation stuff at Makers. And so, a lot of the things that we did, we both reported into Rob Samuels, kind of complemented each other. And so, it's kind of where eventually we got the idea to, go do this on our own, to go build our own distillery. So that's kind of how it all came together. So we left in September of 22, and here we are. So it's been a hell of a journey so far. And, we're looking to be operational in a couple months, which is pretty incredible. That's been our target date for over 2.5 years, and we're going to hit it. So,
well, congratulations to that. That's incredible. Really is. Jane, I want to bring it back to you. Can you tell us about Potter Jane Distilling? Can you tell us what that experience looks like, and what do you hope to produce?
Can I tell you what the experience looks like? That's a hard question. I think to kind of go back, I guess the genesis of this, to Denny's point, we were colleagues that worked together in the trenches every day. From the time you brought the grains in till the time it got to the shelf, we were touching all the parts together. Some stuff overlapped. A lot of where your stuff left off, mine picked up. Why are you laughing?
What you said there just was funny. We're touching all the parts together.
Well, so you're going to a lot of editing on this one. But I think how it came about is, and Bridget, you know this, I think you're from the same ilk as us. Some people fall into this industry and you just love it and you can't imagine ever doing anything else. Neither of us would have known these would have been careers that even existed growing up. We weren't born into this industry, right? We're not from Bardstown. I grew up in a dry county. As people that just loved this industry and everything about it, from the history to the liquid, to the manufacturing, to the agriculture, we would sit around, and I always called it distillery fantasy camp, where if we were going to build a distillery, what would we do and how would we do it and what would it taste like and what would we be? And even if we would play fantasy draft, we get top 5 picks. Who are you drafting to run your maintenance department, or who are you, these were conversations. This makes us sound really sad, actually.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I think it sounds incredibly inspiring. Keep going.
So those were conversations you and I had for years. Even when you worked other places, I spent my entire career at Maker's Mark. We remained friends. And so one day it kind of got to a point where we're veterans in the industry, but we're not old because we started in so young. And it kind of got to a point where, like, you know what? Maybe we should just look at this. We talk about it all the time, or we compliment each other from a skill set. We know how to disagree. We know how to fight and come out on the other side. We love the business. And so we started looking at it. And the more we looked, the more we thought, if we're ever going to try this, it's now or never. And so we took the leap. And I'll be honest, the first year, we probably spent most days going, what are we doing? Why did we do this? We had great jobs. We loved it there. We worked with great people. And so I think the first year was really about finding ourselves, not just as Potter Jane, but even as individuals outside of these roles that had been established for decades or sometimes centuries, right? We were a part of these generational operations that had been doing this really well and to a high standard for a long time. So there was a lot of, I think, doubt and fear the first year. I would say the last year, once we broke ground in June of 23 and really started the construction project, there wasn't time anymore to think about too much of what you're doing. As far as, I think, big picture for us, we want to build a generational operation. We dream about a brand, and it's not ever been about, oh, I want to have a bourbon and put my name on it. Or it was really just about, we want to go make whiskey the way we think it should be made. We want it to taste the way we know it can. Clearly, we don't have other hobbies. We've just said we played distillery fantasy camp in our free time. So it was just, why not? And I'll tell you, it's been the most fun I've ever had. As hard as it's been, as scary as it's been, it's a lot of fun. And if it all crashes and burns in a year, I would never regret any of it. I don't think that's going to happen. But what do you want to say?
Well, if it crashes and burns, there might be a little bit of regret.
Not the physical.
I like my house.
Yeah,
I like my truck.
I like your house too.
I don't think they can take my dog at this point, but yeah, I think, that's the big part of it too. It's in the reason why it's been terrifying, but it's been a lot of fun is we do own it. I think, we are the majority equity holders. So with that comes a lot of responsibility. It's been incredibly educational. Because we were with these great companies, the different iterations of Beam, whether it was Beam or Beam Suntory or now Suntory Spirits, but you have access to all these benefits and all these experts and all these other fields, right? And then now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, that's us. Like that we need to figure all this out, which has been a lot of fun. I've learned more, and I think Jane would agree, in the last 2 years than I have probably over the last 27 of my career. But it's been pretty incredible. And we take it pretty serious that, we own it. We're going to be responsible for, these people that are coming on board that are leaving good jobs. And then also, how important it is to lay the right foundation for a generational operation, right? Like, companies like Jim Beam and Maker's Mark and Sazerac and all these other operations, these were not overnight successes, right? But they had the foundation, the patience, the vision to stick with it. And that's what we're trying, we're trying to get this first phase right. And you really won't know if you got it right until, years down the road. But we're trusting our gut on a lot of it. And we feel really good because at the end of the day, it is going to come down to the people and the liquid. And we feel like we definitely are moving in the right direction for both of those.
That's really, really amazing. I mean, just to go from where you started to where you are today in this process, it's inspiring. It's amazing. I don't have any big enough words for it. I would love
we have a few.
I'm sure you have some choice words for the process as
yeah.
well. I would love for our listeners to understand the liquid, that you hope to come out on the other side of this. Can you talk a bit about the brand itself? What is going to set Potter Jane apart from the rest? What can our listeners expect to taste when they purchase a bottle, when they have that opportunity, maybe at an event, to taste it for the first time? What is your hope for the consumer on the other side?
So it's a great question. And just to kind of, we did start with the kind of liquid we wanted to make. And it's funny, I think as the markets become crowded, when we got that question 2 years ago, I think people were looking, what was your hook? What's your gimmick? What are you going to do? And I think the truth is we designed a distillery with quality in mind and to be able to optimize flavor at every touch point. So combined, we have 44 years experience of a lot of different parts, operations, sales, marketing, blending. I mean, you name it. There's not much we haven't touched or had exposure to. So when we really started thinking about the North Star, it was a little overwhelming because you're like, everything's been done. And then the truth was you had to drown out the noise and go, what is it we actually are wanting to do? Do we have a point of view? Because if we don't have a point of view, we should just stay where we are and shut up. And the truth is, when we've seen the last couple of decades, I think the industry has gotten more and more popular thanks to people like you, Bridget Albert, and all of your listeners. A lot of the bourbons that we fell in love with even a decade or two ago don't necessarily taste the same. So for us, it was about, we want to make bourbon that reminds us of why we fell in love with this industry in the first place. And we're going to do it the right way. We're going to use men and women every day to come in and be a part of this with us. And yeah, we've set up the distillery from a process standpoint where we're going to look at, geeky things, like fermentation temperatures, set times, those sorts of things that, 95% of the population might not care about. But hopefully when they taste our liquid in 4 to 6 years, they're going to say, oh, we're glad you guys gave a shit to like argue and geek out and make these small choices along the way. So we're not going to do anything weird or off the wall out of the gate, as far as we're not going to make quinoa whiskey. We're not going to be, doing laser maturation. I don't even know if that's a thing, but everybody's doing, we're really going to hone in on the basics and the foundations, and it's all going to be flavor led. So yeah. What would you add?
Yeah. Not much. You pretty much nailed it. I think the important thing is it's what we plan to do is not rocket science. There are things that have been done in the past and continue to be done. I think it's just really focusing on every little thing that may be changed in the industry. You let the accountants and the finance people in the room, and all of a sudden production becomes more about efficiency. Then there are things that change in the process. That it's not that it's bad whiskey or anything else, but when you look back 30 years ago, it's definitely different. And really, it's just, like Jane said, the longer fermentation times, that we're not using enzymes. We're not going to go high gravity, beers, all of these things that really, it is not rocket science. It is nothing new, but every one of these choices throughout the process does impact flavor, right? Which is the key. It's about flavor, because most everybody makes really good quality whiskey. But it's also about, okay, how can you make a quality whiskey, but continue to focus on the flavor side throughout the process. Then when you get into the barrel, then that's a whole, obviously that's a whole nother ballgame, but we have plans for that too, right? Like the smaller rick houses. We're not doing palletized. So we're doing smaller rick houses.
Lower entry proof.
Lower entry proof. That rick houses face north to south. So you get the east to west sun. So they get more heat.
Hillsides.
Hillsides for more airflow. So, I mean, again, it's just, and because it's the two of us that get to make all the decisions, we can focus in on that, build it into our business plan, build it into your financials and all those other things, and then be okay with it. And then not compromise that down the road, right? So, I think that's our philosophy. It's nothing earth shattering. And then again, I think on the back end, we'll be able to play around with some stuff. I mean, obviously Jane has a ton of experience on the innovation side, and we just don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we've got time to figure it out.
We also have a little bit of a philosophy. And I don't know if this is just where we came from as far as the mentality, but like you kind of got to earn the right to innovate sometimes. Like you got to get the basics right, your fundamentals. So do we have whiskeys we dream about that we probably won't live long enough to see? We do. I mean, there are things deep in the vaults of Potter Jane as far as our think tank, the two of us, of products. My daughter's 8. I hope one day she gets to stand up in front of a crowd and introduce some of these whiskeys, or Megan and Colin, Denny's kids. But I mean, this is a long game. And the truth is, we're not entrepreneurs. We're whiskey people that are kind of betting on ourselves. So as far as your listeners, come visit us. We'll be operational in January. You can taste White Dog with us all day. As far as product on a shelf, we're going to do the wait. As long as we can afford it, we're going to wait till it's ready. We'll probably release something at 4 to try to bring people along. We tend to love 7 to 8 summers of aging, is a sweet spot, I think, for kind of a flagship. But we'll see. You won't know maturation curves till you're in it. You won't know kind of your natural province and DNA of your distillery till you're in it. So, I mean, we're going to learn a lot in the next couple of years about the kind of whiskey we can make.
This is so great, and I didn't think that you were going to come out with like a Pop Rocks bourbon, by the way, or something. I wasn't trying to what's your hook? I think that it's amazing, though, that you're taking the time to make it right? You're really taking the care and the extra care to produce something as it should be produced to the flavor profile that you want it to be. And for consumers that don't understand that, when you're not taking shortcuts, it could cost you a lot of money. You could produce something much quicker if you did to get to that flavor that you want it to, but to do it right. And what that tells me, as somebody who understands the category, is that Potter Jane Distilling will be trusted for quality. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a place you can go and you're getting a damn good bourbon that's of the highest quality.
Yeah. And we know we have to earn that, right? Like, I mean, the intention is to be that. The tough thing is to stick to it, right? So you have to earn it. And then you have to continually prove yourself, which is what we want to do, when we have a product out on the shelf. And we also understand that when we do, I mean, it's going to be a lot of Jane and I in market, hosting tastings and dinners and events. And because we think it's important, we think, just like you look at a lot of these successful brands that have been around for decades and generations, it's that connection that people have with, those families and, the people that are kind of behind the scenes. So that's who we want Potter Jane to be. And it's not just about Jane and I. We're hiring people that know more about distilling than we do. They just do, right? I mean, so we're excited by that. We're excited that they're going to have the opportunity to be a part of this too. And we know that we have a much better chance of being successful with people like that on board. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but we still have to prove ourselves, and we know that. And then we have to hold true to that once we do, which isn't easy.
And I think talking about the teams a piece, I won't speak for Denny, but it's been a surprise for me how rewarding that piece of building a business is. I think you think a lot about the brand and the distillery and what you're going to do. And I'm someone that lives at 30,000 foot. Like we are very different. I'm much more of the dreamer and the big up here. And Denny is an operations guy. It's why we work. But, we manage teams our entire careers. But then when it's your business and you're responsible, not just for that employee, but their family and that community. And we're going into a county in Kentucky that hasn't had a distillery since before Prohibition. So the county's surrounded by distilleries all around it, but they didn't have the utilities for years to be able to support a distillery. They, they got the utilities, they got the resources, and we will be the first there in, I think, over 100 years. And so thinking about how that impacts these families in this small Kentucky community, like that's a part I didn't expect to be, I guess, emotional or for that piece to feel so, and I say heavy, not in a bad way, but it matters, right? We're asking people to take a chance on us and join us. We'll have about 25 men and women working for us by the time we fire up in January, and we take that seriously. And that's been a part that I didn't expect that to feel as good as it does.
Yeah, it does. I mean, even just something simple, we ran into the judge executive for Washington County a few weeks ago, and he was like, man alive, I get our labor reports each month. And because we literally have 60 to 80 people working on the distillery site every day through construction, those are labor taxes that are paid into Washington County. So to have the judge executive just walk up and that's the first thing he says, you don't think about that, but he's thinking about how those taxes can benefit the community, right? So we're already starting to make some of those direct connections and contributions. And then, how supportive they are through the process. I think, Jane hit on it. We kind of underestimated how awesome that is. But then it also, again, feeds back into this drive to make sure we're doing things the right way and that we're going to be around for a long time, because it has a direct impact on these small local communities, which is really exciting.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, you're really creating something special, right, for the community. And Jane, I'm going to flip this question over to you. What has the community's overall reaction been beyond the judge, beyond, getting, talk about the taxes, all this stuff, but like the folks that, the mom and pops that just kind of live in the community, what is their reaction been to Potter Jane?
It's been phenomenal. We both live in Bardstown, Springfield, which is the town in Washington County where we're going to be. It's an 18-mile drive. And not being from there, not having any connections there, they have embraced us. I mean, we are going to be, I think, a hometown distillery, and they have already made us one of their own. I got yeast rolls for Christmas, and I got,
yeah.
I mean, it's hard to even, we could tell stories all day about random people we meet, or now we have an office front downtown that we're renting without a lease on a handshake, that they gave us a great deal because they wanted us to have an office in Springfield. And people stop by just to ask. They stop by with old photos of farms or different stories, or you should use this for a bottle name, or, we're learning about the history, and people just, they're excited. It's felt really good.
Yeah. And I think people recognize that it can be a bit transformational for the community, not in a bad way. And what we mean by that is, Springfield, which is pretty much the city outside of Willisburg within Washington County, they've seen all these happenings of the Bourbon Trail that they've kind of missed out on, right? Like, I mean, if you drive through downtown Springfield, it's about 3 blocks. But I mean, the first buildings went up in the 1850s. I mean, it's a very historic, reminds you of a little bit of Bardstown, but on a bit of a smaller scale. And we actually bought an old bank building that was built in the 1850s. It sits right on Main Street. But what's crazy about it is people are on the Bourbon Trail every single day, and they're driving right through Washington County. Whether if you're at Woodford or Four Roses or Wild Turkey and you're going to Maker's Mark, you're going to drive right through Washington County. You're going to go right by our distillery. If you're coming from the Danville area and Wilderness Trail and all that, you're going to go right through Washington County. Because the other cool thing, and I don't know that people know this yet, but we own 153 acres. Contiguous to us is Michter's. They have a warehousing site. They have 5 warehouses up. And then contiguous to them is Willett. So Willett has 150 acres where they're building a very, very cool distillery that you can see from our distillery. And you can walk from our distillery to Willett and never leave distillery property. So, and then there's another distillery that's planning to go up right across Macville Road from Willett that, I mean, this could be a huge impact on Washington County and Springfield, because you're going to have a destinational stop on the Bourbon Trail in Washington County. So people have been very receptive to that, because with that, there will be lodging, there will be restaurants, there will be things that pop up that doesn't necessarily change the look and the feel of the town, but obviously provides some of that financial structure that, that they need, that goes to the schools, the roads, all of these things that are important in these communities. So it's going to be fun to be a part of that. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it happen.
Yeah, you will be part of that town's growth and sustainability, right? Because so many small towns don't make it. They become ghost towns. So you're part of that. That's just a big wow, Before we wrap it up, I do want to ask you each a question, and I'll start off with Jane. Jane, what would you say to your younger self that was laying on your mother's couch with a Post-it note on her forehead and, dreaming to maybe be this rafting guide that you knew nothing about? What would you say to her today?
Bridget, I don't know that I would say anything. I mean, I think just keep moving forward. I mean, my mom raised me. I was someone that I think was pretty fearless on a lot of things. Like, I got out of school and moved to London to live in a hostel and pour pints in a pub at 22 years old. I moved to Japan and taught English, not knowing anyone. I backpacked around Asia for 6 months by myself on $12 a day. But I had a family and support system that would say, like, what's the worst that happens? You try it, you don't like it, you come home. My mom always said that to me. And we even say that. We said it this morning about what's the worst that happens? We're going to try it. And maybe we aren't majority equity holders in 5 years, and that would suck. But, we're going to try, and we're going to work our asses off and hopefully make our friends and family proud. So I don't know that I would say anything to her other than just keep trying stuff. I was someone that just tried stuff,
That's really great advice, because I think that half of the battle is just stepping out of your comfort zone and just doing it and seeing what happens, right? Denny, I have pretty much the same question for you as well. Looking back on your career, and it's been an incredible career, but when you look back to where you first started, what would you say to your younger self today?
Not completely different than what Jane has said, but I mean, it's actually advice that I give people today. You get a lot, because of the title master distiller, you get a lot of people like, hey, how the hell did you become a master distiller? Like, it's something I want to do. I think for me, it's one, if you get in our industry, get passionate about it. It's a fun industry. Yes, it's a job. We get that, right? Like, we all need to work to make money and all the things, but just embrace the industry because it is a very unique industry. I would joke all the time, whether it was at Heaven Hill or Makers or whatever. And, you would see all of these people coming in from all over the world that are on these tours to watch us work and would actually pay to do our jobs. Right. I mean, it's just incredible. But, I think for me, it's do the things that nobody else wants to do, right? In our industry, work that third shift job or that second shift job. Go do wastewater. I mean, the reason why the first move I made in the industry, obviously I started out in the lab. Well, they had nobody that wanted to go do wastewater. And I'm like, well, it sounds interesting. It's directly tied to operations. If nobody cared about the back end of manufacturing, then there would be no manufacturing. So, I jumped in and, I'd be in a boat in a wastewater lagoon grabbing samples, right, to go run the analysis on. And no, go do those things. When they ask you to uproot your life and, go to the Caribbean, and I know that sounds like it's a hell of an awesome thing. Well, it's not. It's not easy. I had young kids. My wife was working she had a good job. She had to quit that. So it's just go do the things that maybe it doesn't seem ideal, but I can promise you, if you go do these things and you have the same passion and love for the industry, it will work out. It will work out. And don't be afraid to go try it. Don't be afraid to go ask. The whole reason why I ended up, on the distillery side was because Dave Pickerel was our plant manager at Makers and Steve Nally was the master distiller. And Steve decided he wanted to retire. And we didn't really have anybody in line to be distillery manager. And I was quality and environmental manager. And I went and asked Dave Pickerel. I'm like, Dave, I know this sounds crazy, but I've always wanted to get in on the distilling side. And Dave said, go for it. You got to keep doing environmental, but go for it. But because of that environmental and me doing wastewater, it's opened a lot of doors to allow me to move my career even further on the distilling side. So that would be my advice. Just be passionate. Don't be afraid to go do things that people don't want to do. And don't be afraid to go ask. Right. So I've been lucky because I've worked with a lot of good people that have had a lot of faith in me.
Same.
And I've been blessed because of that for sure.
Yeah, same on my side too. I didn't graduate college. And if you would have told me when I look back at my younger self, I would have kept smoking my joint and turned up my Led Zeppelin and laughed at your ass. So it's like, I was going to be what? But I think that from what you both said, it does take a lot of determination, a lot of grit, and a ton of passion to chase and to go after and, your dreams, and to build something from nothing is just something to admire. So, with that said, I want to first of all, invite you both back on the show. Once you are open, if you would be willing to come and just, give us updates every once in a while. I know our listeners will want to tune in and see what's happening at Potter Jane. And then I also want to wish you both just some great health and a lot of peace. So cheers to the both of you. Thank you so much for taking the time in your busy schedule to be on Served Up. And I wish you both the very best.
Thanks, Bridget. It's always so fun to talk to you.
And we'll definitely provide updates and let us know when's a good time to come back and we'll be on.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of our future Served Up episodes. Cheers.